Florida State's culture is changing for the better with the players and the coaches.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, we're getting real close to football season getting started. It's just around the corner. So visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets right now. Florida State football is headed in the right direction, and it's a really great thing to see from a cultural perspective just in the last few days. And I'm going to talk about that throughout the podcast. That is going to be the overarching theme. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Conrad Hussey situation in comparison to all the other players that have been interviewed. Jaden Jones, give me 100 of those. We're going to talk about him. Amari Williams, give me 100 of those. Patrick Surtain, and then just the overall emphasis on culture that Florida State has built since this new coaching staff has come on board. This is good stuff. This is why I signed up to do Locked On Seminoles, because it's Florida State and this is the way it should be. So let's dive into that and just start talking about the overarching theme. I posted another video on Thursday discussing all the opportunities that I thought Conrad Hussey had, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Obviously, if you saw it, Norvell's body language was pretty obvious. He was awkward as expected when he mentioned that Hussey had been dismissed a couple of days ago. That's fine. But then a report came out, just giving the cliff notes here from CBS, that this was an altercation between Hussey and one of the coaches. I have a pretty good idea who it was. I'll leave it at that. But it doesn't even matter. Players and coaches cannot be in any way, shape, or form scrapping, fighting, hands-on, whatever phrase it is. And I don't know the full details, and I hope that it's very minor, but again, I don't know. But that is part of what happened last year in terms of not just fighting, but I'm talking about people not getting along, and it just caved the locker room at Florida State. If you are not able to handle whatever is on your plate as a coach, as a player, or anybody else that's involved with the program, at some point you're going to cause some damage. And Hussey was a key player. I mean, he played as a freshman, played as a sophomore. A lot of people thought, myself included, that he was going to be a guy that ended up being a major contributor, if not a starter this year. But then we didn't really hear his name beginning of fall camp. Then a couple of days ago, this kind of dawned on me right before I did the podcast. I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone about this whole situation with Hussey. When Coach Tony White was at the press conference, and you could tell he was agitated, visibly agitated. He's not a guy that holds back his emotions. Talking about some players need to be accountable and this and that. There's no doubt part of that, if not all of it, was directed at Hussey in that moment. Now, there are other guys that have issues too, I'm sure, because it's a football team. There's going to be other troublemakers at points in time. But how many guys get just dismissed in the middle of fall camp? Something went really wrong. I'm guessing they knew then that he was getting dismissed and it just came out a little later. But that's something you have to do. There's an old saying from a book that I read when I was in grad school. It's called From Good to Great. It said, get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, and then finally, this is where coaching comes into play, get the right people in the right seats. So you sign a great player, you don't know exactly where he's going to play. Maybe he's a corner, maybe he's a running back. Work done. Florida State thought he was going to be a DB, receiver or something, ended up being a running back. Obviously a really good one. If you get the right people onto your campus, these things take care of themselves. Charlie Ward, they thought he was going to be a DB, and he told Bowden, I'm going to play quarterback. He obviously earned it. He won the Heisman. Get the right people. It will take care of itself over time. Florida State also has to, like I said, get the right people and get the wrong people off the bus. That's part of the culture change. This is okay. You never like losing players, but I would rather lose the player now as compared to losing the player week 3, week 4, right before the Miami game. That's not how this works when it goes well. So Florida State football is trending in the right direction. And culturally, that is one of the biggest things that we've had happen in quite a while. To that point, enough about the situation with Hussey. I want to talk about something positive. Amari Williams did his press conference, and he's a kid I got to know a little bit right before his junior year. I stopped by the Benjamin school where he was, and I had an interview with him. I watched him at track practice, then I watched him at football practice, and I could tell like the athleticism was through the roof. They were doing pass rushing drills, and he got to pick if he played offense or defense. Like they were split down the middle on him too. Hey, I'm going to go to practice. I don't even know what I'm going to do. When I get there, I'll figure it out. But he went 100 miles an hour, always nice, always took coaching. That's how it should be. I don't know which spot he'll end up playing in the NFL, but I'm pretty sure he's going to make it there. Again, the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, then you figure out where the right people need to be seated. Amari is the prime example of that. And I asked the following question as an extra bonus here. Name another player in college football this year that is a full-time two-way player, not as a specialist, as an every down kind of guy. Like he can play on things other than special teams and offense and defense. Like he's the whole package. He's all across the board, but he's going to play offense and defense, and I'm sure they'll give him some special teams too. He's going to be a pass rusher primarily, but he'll get some 1st and 10 and 2nd and 10 kind of work because he's starting to add size and starting to add strength. And it's his 2nd year in the program. He's just more comfortable with football and being away from home. Remember, Amari enrolled a year early at Florida State, just as full disclosure. That's part of it. So he's 18 years old, playing on the edge and playing tight end. But as he said in his press conference, I was talking to Malzahn. I had just sacked the quarterback. Then I came over to the offensive side and I scored a touchdown. Doesn't get any better than that if you're playing defensive end and tight end. So I'm sure that the coaches are kind of, for lack of a better term, fighting for his reps. But he's a really talented player on both sides of the ball. And kudos to Norvell and everybody for allowing Amari to be that guy. Not everybody would allow that. I think it's kind of cool personally, but we'll see how he does this year. But it's a microcosm of what's going on. The only thing that I want to also add to it, and I knew this would be the case with Amari, there's probably a little playbook stress, and he kind of denoted that. He said it is what it is, and I know I can handle it. He told Norvell that he enjoyed being pushed to the brink because it's a lot of reps. It's a lot to learn, meeting with this group, meeting with that group, but he wants that challenge. And if you're at the Benjamin School, I'm guessing most of you probably don't know what that is. It's one of the most expensive high schools in the world. A couple of years ago, it was like $47,000 a year to go there. It's insane. So he's with elite academic kids, so I'm sure he's going to be able to conquer the playbook on both sides of the ball a little bit easier than quite a few other people do. And good for him. A lot of kids don't take their education serious enough, and I think Amari will be one of those guys. When we come back, we're going to continue on. We're going to talk about Jaden Jones, one of my favorite players, maybe the guy I'm rooting for the most this year for the Noles. That is next here on Locked on Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Wayfair. As summer winds down, there's something nice about getting back into a routine you love, and Wayfair makes it easy to set yourself up for the season ahead. From bedding, linens, and storage solutions for every room, Wayfair is your one-stop shop to refresh your home. If you're looking to redecorate, whether it's a table, whether it's a chair, whether it's a computer desk like I got from Wayfair, they've got a little bit of everything. So the variety is great, and they'll send it to you without charging you for it, making it a lot easier to pick Wayfair to get your stuff offline. Save yourself the trip of going to the store. Just get it from Wayfair. Get organized, refreshed, and back into routine for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen. Please like and subscribe if you have not already. Become an everydayer. We appreciate you stopping in and hit that like, subscribe, share, and comment. And if you're on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else, hit that automatic download. Let's talk a little bit about my new favorite player to follow at Florida State. The interview iced it, but I'd already leaned into it a little bit. Jaden Jones. I talked about him the other day a little bit, but then the press conference made this an easy segment for me to do. Pretty quiet kid, pretty withdrawn, but the word humble pie comes to mind. It's a kid who comes to Florida State out of junior college, gets kind of buried on the depth chart. He has an injury. He ends up going kind of off the grid. Nobody really thinks about him. And then this winter he starts emerging some, gets healthy, has a pretty decent spring. And then this fall camp, he has stood out. Florida State's not going to put Jaden Jones up in front of the mic. No way in the world, unless he's standing out. They're not going to put guys up there. They're going to get 2 reps a game. He's going to be in the DN rotation, and he's going to be a player along with James Williams, along with Jason Jenkins, and just a plethora of good defensive linemen. That's one spot I'm not real worried about Florida State this year. He's going to be part of that rotation. He's earned it. He's passed some guys that I didn't think he had a chance to pass. And he just kept talking about in the press conference at every single answer, discussing how he's just blessed to kind of be there. He enjoys every rep. He enjoys it whether he fails, whether he does good. He's learning every day, and he just loves that opportunity. I'm like, give me more of that. That is what got me into college football way back in the 1980s. It's one of those things where you can't just be an easygoing guy and not love it the way he does, to turn it on and off. Like, you got to love it because he's a low-key dude. I'd be curious to see how turn up he is before a play, because like seeing his personality and his body language during the press conference, you're like, this guy's not a football player. Then he starts talking about the reasons he liked it, and his eyes kind of light up. Now, he's still not real boisterous. He is withdrawn, but I'll take that every time. And you look at Jaden's frame and you say that looks like a defensive end. That's the other thing. Like the measurables part, oh yeah, Jaden Jones fits the profile of like one of the guys that Bowden squads had in the 90s, 93 to 2000, somewhere in that range when they were really, really dominant on defense. He fits that profile to a T, and he also fits this profile. Somebody you just want to root for because he's been through so much. Junior college, waited his turn, then gets hurt. He's waited all this time to get a chance to play at Florida State, and I will take that every single day of the week. To that point, the Desir twins are the new, shall we say, intriguing players in the freshman class. Mandrell was up in front of the mic today talking about him and his brother. And that guy, by the way, he is, talk about physically imposing for a freshman. Holy cow. They just have the same kind of attitude that Jaden does, also defensive ends. True freshmen out of both of them. The twins are from Norland High School, if I remember correctly, down in Miami. And they just embody what you're looking for, personality-wise. Culture. Florida State hasn't gotten enough of these guys. Jaden Jones, Amari Williams, the Desir twins, all of these guys, they are a culture fit for what Bowden would have had. That's my measuring stick, and I use that a lot because of my age, but it's going to work anytime. If you're willing to come with a lunch pail attitude and you're just willing to be a part of the team, to be a part of the machine, not demanding that you start, those are the guys that are going to be successful. Those are the players, they're going to come out on top long term. I remember when I heard Coach White talking about the defensive line, somebody asked him a basic question, and the first thing he mentioned were the twins. Not James Williams, not Jason Jenkins, not anybody else. The twins, true freshmen. And remember, if you followed recruiting, they got an offer, each of them a little later in the process, to really go after it, committable offer, from what I understand. Maybe that's wrong, but that's what I understand. And those guys have come in. They're doing better than guys that they signed that were ranked higher. They're doing better than guys they signed years before. They're showing what it's supposed to be a Florida State Seminole. I appreciate that. And I hope all of you do too, because I am telling you, for Florida State to rise back up, to take on Penn State, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, Ohio State, those teams, by and large, have better cultures than Florida State until otherwise proven. Evidence A is 2-10. Last year, it was a cancerous culture at Florida State. Too many quitters, too many guys that didn't give their all during the games and sometimes before. Like, I don't think some of the guys were in the kind of shape they should have been. All the above. This is what it's supposed to look like, and this is how you get back to being a dominant program. I'm not saying Florida State's going to go, 12-0 during the regular season this year and go into the playoff with the number 1 or number 2 seed. I'm not a fool. But this is how you get there. Signing kids like this, giving them a chance, and then when they do well, giving them a chance to promote themselves and putting them at the microphone. Not a lot of coaches like putting freshmen up there. Amari should be a freshman. He's coming off his freshman year, but he's like 18. Got the Desir twins. You don't get that very often. Oh, by the way, Chroma has already been up there in front. They reward kids for the things they should be rewarded for. That is going to pay dividends, no doubt about it. When we come back, I want to talk about Surtain, also to that point, finishing up the show with more culture, talking about the depth chart, some moving pieces. That is next here on Locked on Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, and August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For only 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions, so whether you're calling your MVP, long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. So you could go with a lot of different things. Division winners, you could go with AFC champion, you could go with AFC or NFC's best player on defense, overall league MVP like Patrick Mahomes. There are a lot of different options to go with on FanDuel. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. To finish up the show, I want to talk about Surtain. He was a really good interview, and I enjoyed watching it because not only does he mention, okay, these players are doing this guy's doing that, he gives some detail on what it is. Not all coaches do that, and while he's not giving as many as I'd like, I understand Alabama week's coming up, and it was just refreshing. So that's first part. Secondly, just kind of going through the depth chart and talking about some of these players. One of the guys that I didn't know where they were even going to play him because he's long as heck. I've been around him a couple times. Shamar Arnaud, defensive back out of Carrollton High School, just west of Atlanta, Georgia. Elite program. He committed to Auburn. Then he flipped to Florida State. I think this is a kid that could be really good at Florida State at some point. I didn't expect it right away, though. But then Surtain brought up something that made me think, well, here we go again. This is culture. This is the way it's got to be. A lot of high school DBs get away with just being more physically talented. They cover well. They help tackle, but they don't tackle a lot. He said he wasn't scared at all. He comes up and he tackles, and he gets guys on the ground in one-on-one situations in space. That's something that Surtain mentioned multiple times that they're getting really involved with. Like, they know they got to tackle better. Like, how many times last year? Think about it now. Be honest with yourself. How many times last year did you think about Florida State and their incredibly poor tackling? It was insane. They especially didn't do well against quality running backs in one-on-ones. They were really bad. So hearing that a freshman has come in, he enrolled this past January, talking about Shamar Arnaud, but that's still better than what some juniors, seniors, and fifth-year seniors did last year at Florida State, to be quite honest. So now he's in the mix. With Hussey gone, I'm curious if he's a guy that's going to get any play for free safety or strong safety or however they want to label it. That's something I'm curious about. But he's also, like Surtain brought up, Kai Bates. He brought up Ashwood Barker. He's talking about Shaheem Brown, Kirkland, Quindarius. He's really high on Jabril Rawls based on his comments. He's talked about how athletic he was, and that's as I've mentioned here on Locked On Seminoles, I've been around him a few times. He is, and he's super long. Like he's what you're looking for in that regard. He's super high on that group. And Surtain, quite honestly, he's not somebody that really can hide things. Like he's an A to B guy, which I appreciate. I think he believes that he's got a secondary that's as good as it can be. They just got to put it together because he kept talking about that with each guy, with each question. Hey, this guy can make a move. This guy can do this. Here are some of the points. And the overall theme was just more consistency with some of the young guys. Edwin Joseph, just as an example, is probably learning quite a bit from Earl Little Jr. Earl's a year ahead of him. Earl is a guy that's played in the SEC and at Florida State, played multiple positions. If you're smart, you learn from guys like that. And that's part of your culture as well. But this is as giddy as I've seen Surtain in any interview since he's been in Tallahassee. So I thought that was really, really telling. And to be honest with you, it's refreshing. All the interviews I saw today were positive. All the interviews I saw made me laugh, made me smile. And it's finally time we're starting to see some of that culture. I hope it shows on the field from game one. I'm not sure that it will, but they're getting the players they need for the long term. I still think that this year, anything you get out of it is a bonus because it's a reset, but they're a little further ahead right now, to be honest, than I thought they would be. I thought there was a chance at this point, this juncture in fall camp, a week or so out from getting really, really ready for Bama, like just going into straight up game prep, we would have several position battles that were like, yeah, I don't even know who's going to start. It's the opposite because the culture is flipped and there are multiple guys vying for spots that are critical, like DBs across the board. All the DBs in today's football are very, very important because everybody can throw it. They've got options, guys that can play multiple spots. Surtain made it clear. So again, I was very happy with the overall theme of everything that happened with these interviews and just reading the tea leaves. And finally, just to reiterate, like they needed the reset and they're doing it the right way, making guys earn it at practice. They're not just handing out. They're not just handing out these starting gigs. That's the other thing. Surtain mentioned, hey, there's time left. Nothing is given. Nothing is earned yet. There's more fall camp to go. It's the way it's got to be. I guarantee you that's the way Mickey Andrews coached the defense back in the day, among others. So that's a really important part of it. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. We'll be back again soon. We've got some good news coming, I can assure you, on the recruiting front sooner than later. And we also should have some pretty good news, I'm hoping, on starting lineups. I'm curious to see, and if anybody wants to comment on this, fire away, if they release a depth chart before Bama and how accurate it is. That's something I'll probably talk about next week. But thank you very much. Like and subscribe. We will see you again soon on Locked On Seminoles.